The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you.
Your mother sucks cocks in hell.
The power of Christ compels you. You good?
Yeah.
Good. Do not touch me again.
I think you split my lip.
Oh, big fucking deal.
Ow.
We watched a movie today.
The Devil Inside.
The Devil Inside.
Oh.
I'm glad that you said the title because, to be honest, I cannot fucking remember which devil is doing what in this.
I will say this as a word to the audience here. I watched this movie literally a couple days after I saw the premiere for Devil's Due. Another shot on shitty-o movie.
Not really shitty, just found footage.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, at first, in the beginning of this movie, because they were making a documentary, this seemed to make sense. Hold on, I'm just going to say this initial point.
Okay.
It's like the reason that they shot this as a found footage movie made sense. In Devil's Due, it made absolutely no fucking sense that any of that movie was actually shot.
So yes, I reviewed Devil's Due. Now,
Plot.
title, fuck that.
No, that's all I'm going to say on the matter.
Alright.
That movie was worse than this one.
Well, that's something to see. In this movie, there is a girl named Isabella and her mother Maria. Maria is possessed by something. And she, instead of being tried for 2 counts of murder during an exorcism, she's transferred to Rome and lives out in an insane asylum. 15 years later, Isabella goes to visit her mother in that Vatican thingy. And, shit goes down. They try exorcising her. 2 priests are there. One named David, one named Marco Polo. I don't fucking know. So then they exorcise a girl and they show how it works. And it's pretty graphic and whatnot. The graphic. Then they go try to exorcise Maria. Maria, the devil comes out of her and you think it's gone. But then it turns out it went into David, the priest. So then he tries to drown a baby and then he kills himself. And then after he kills himself, it goes into Isabella. And then Isabella takes the guy who's filming the movie, who's driving the car, and drives him off the road. And then the movie ends with
a website.
With a website that is defunct as far as I can tell. You'll notice that I'm not interested in this plot. Fuck it.
Fail!
Fuck it. This was made, what, a year ago, I think? Around there. Devil Inside? That was about a year ago.
I think it was 2012.
Whatever it was.
Either way, it was very recent. And remember, this movie...
Space Jam is still up. How can your website go down that quick?
They actually revised that. Yeah, they did. Changed it. But anyway, when this movie came up, there was a big marketing campaign for it. Like, it was one of the bigger movies that was being released. And it's bizarre because when we look at this movie, we see how ungodly cheap it is.
Oh, terribly.
This movie is very cheap, very shoddy, very lazy. At first, I thought it was okay. In the very, very beginning, I'm like, alright, you got a little bit of, like, kind of like the numb disbelief thing going on here. And this kind of moves right to the characters, where it's like, you got this kind of like this numb disbelief that the main character has with, what exactly had gone on at her house. And there's all this mystery behind exactly what specifically had happened.
Yeah. Was it a demon? Was she just mentally ill?
See, the thing is, though, this is really what should have happened. And this works with the writing, too, but it starts off with her trying to figure out what had happened to her mother, and also, if she was, like, legitimately possessed and all that jazz.
Yes.
But all of the extenuating circumstances that happened later on in the movie that everything starts getting fucking haywire happens because they go and try to find her. What would have been a more interesting movie if this movie had stayed in the documentary format, a legitimate documentary format, because it started out with like interviews and all that kind of stuff.
Previous tapes, interviews with people who are respected in their fields, the girl herself, and then as soon as she gets her ass on a plane, it's just like...
it's all raw footage found.
Yeah, whatever, that'd be cool.
But...
who edited... If the guy died in the very end, who the fuck edited this together?
I mean, unless he's like me, who likes to like run home the moment after we shoot something and edit it, but... I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt on this one.
They just fucked that up.
But that's
You're saying how it should have gone.
Yeah, the movie should have just been a recollection of what had happened to her mom.
Yeah, like past tense. Past tense. And
this is a problem, and I'm kind of like skipping ahead a little bit, but this is a problem, and I was telling David this during the movie, this is a problem with found footage films, or just in the moment shaky, it doesn't even have to be shaky cam, it's just in the moment, like taking place docudrama style shit. This is the problem with them. If you do it, you need to adhere to a certain formula, or else it's not going to work. A lot of problems with these movies have is that they start off a certain way, and then they turn a completely different
way. And then their filmmaking 101 class kicks in. And they're like, oh, I should be setting up this shot, and then this shot, and then this shot.
I mean, somehow they'll manage to get it, but the thing is, at the same time, like, no. This doesn't work. There's a movie out there, and I've talked about this movie before, it's called The Poughkeepsie Tapes, and it's a documentary a mockumentary anyway, about a serial killer, and it's one of the scariest movies I've seen in the last few years, because the way that it's structured, the way that it's set up, and also the authenticity of the raw footage that they find, it's very real. And the thing is, though, the reason that he has the camera, the killer has the camera, makes absolute sense. Because a serial killer likes documented proof of what exactly he had been doing. That's why all the 800 tapes and all that kind of stuff. That made sense. These movies don't make sense. It started off as a documentary, then became a fucking video diary.
That's exactly what... Let's somewhat get into characters. We'll start with the filmmaker himself. Just so I can say this.
Barely had any words.
Exactly. But it's from a writing standpoint as well. Exactly what you were saying. They don't put down the camera. There's like one point where he puts down the camera to help Isabel, whatever the fuck her name is, get back, like, hold her down, restrain her pretty much. Or help her when she's seizuring or whatever the fuck is happening. That's the only time he doesn't put down the camera. He goes through, like, airport security. He goes through, like... He's watching this exorcism tape up there, and he's always filming everything. Every goddamn thing.
Even the computer screens.
Yeah.
And all that.
It's like, dude, look.
They're using Final Cut.
The one point that you said it was in the hospital. People are literally dying. There is a nurse who's blood all here. She got stabbed or some shit. And what does he
exactly
do?
What happened to her?
Oh, what's going on here? No, at that point you're like, oh shit, either I should stop filming or I should get the fuck out of here.
It's exactly what you said when it came down with like Cloverfield.
Yeah.
There's no legitimate reason for why you would still hold on to that damn camera.
They'd explain it away with, oh, people are going to wonder about what happened tonight. Bitch, you already filmed the monster 5 times at that point.
Run! Fucking run!
Go. Put down the goddamn camera.
You got enough evidence!
Go.
You can get on Larry King Live with that shit. Go!
But no, that's... and in fact, that guy at the end of Cloverfield, he died because he went back for the camera.
Yeah.
So, leave the camera, camera guys.
Yeah, fuck all of you.
Okay.
There's the found footage movies and whatnot, I can count on my one hand how many can get them right.
Poughkeepsie
Tapes, Cannibal Holocaust, Blair Witch Project.
Depending on your view.
I think has some legitimate reasons. Not because I'm just a snob.
So, since we don't want to talk about this movie, no.
But going back to the characters and the writing, the problem is, though, the reason that it's hard for us to talk about this movie is because there's so little to talk about. The characters are so unbelievably one-dimensional. You have the rogue police. I mean, the
rogue Vatican.
The rogue Vaticans. The rogue exorcists from the school of exorcism. I'm like, there's no Catholic school of exorcism, guys. The Catholic Church doesn't even
Not that they want you to know about it, sheeple.
It doesn't condone exorcism. This isn't fucking Helsing, okay? Alexander Anderson's not gonna burst through a fucking wall and stake all these goddamn demons to death.
So yeah, there's the rogue guys, and then there's the girl who just wants to know what's going on with her mother.
She wants to save her mom. Come on. It's her mom.
And that's really the only four
And I get that, but at the same time...
Oh, and then there's the mom herself.
Oh, she's not. She's in.
She's
like,
in the very beginning, and that's the only time. Not very beginning, like I guess a third of the way.
She's
in.
in the beginning, and she's in like a halfway through the
Yeah.
movie, and then she
And
just
she's
fizzles
like-
out.
Well, at that point, the demon had left her, so it didn't need to be there anymore. So yeah, let's start with the girl. The girl is very one note. She's very much just there to start everything off.
She started interesting, but then I realized she didn't change.
It's not even that. She started everything off. She started the story off. She got to people's room. They got her looking into this demon. But then after that point, nothing. Nothing happened to her character except that she got possessed by a demon and then died. Like
That was the
9
only
minutes
characterization
That's
that
it.
she
later. Her only
possessed.
characterization is she stopped being herself. That's her characterization.
It's like a D&D character.
You got the mom character who is given a lot of like backstory, like exposition about how she killed 2 people when she was being under an exorcist, and
I want
she
to know
had
how
mood
she
swings
killed
and
him.
whatnot.
I want to know how she killed him.
Whatever. Well, they showed the '89 tapes.
Yeah.
They showed tapes back from October '89.
No
showing
specific
the murder
date.
scene.
No specific
Yeah,
date.
October '89.
And it was shot on a Betamax.
Oh,
or at least
God.
it was made to look like a Betamax.
But no, her character, she's just a general crazy. That's the only time you see her. She's like, "Hey, Pat, would you like to see my painting? Go fuck yourself!" That's essentially her.
Connect the rest.
Connect the cuts, which never fucking came back.
No.
They never connected the cuts.
No.
Um,
There was no mystery involved
There
with this
wasn't.
movie. This literally was. This really wasn't. This is just a scenario.
real quick.
This wasn't even something compositing enough to be a scene,
I'm gonna
let alone a
plow through-
movie.
I'm gonna plow through the other characters real quick. There's the 2 priests. The one who's just kind of like,
We need to do this. Is the
We
right
gotta
thing.
we
Hell with the hell with
screw
the church.
church! Screw
We
the
gotta
church!
And the other guy was like, no,
Like,
the
"We're gonna
church might
fuck
screw
the
me.
church. No, it's got to be this way. And then he gets possessed.
You do not fuck the church fucks you.
So that's
Well.
it's all super cliche.
Oh, very.
Super cliche.
Even
to
the
get
demons
people.
are.
Yeah, the demons.
Even the possessions are. Actually, no, except for that. The first possession that we did witness, that was like the one
The
part.
first exorcism.
Yeah.
She's like a contortionist.
But also,
It's a
she, she had the releasement of some interesting bowel movement during that scene, which it ended up splashing up on the camera. I want to know what they used for that. It's probably like a hose or something
Well,
like
the
that.
fact that it got wiped off in the very next shot from that angle, and he never had the time to take a things to it.
No, it
special
wasn't wiped
effects.
off. It wasn't wiped off.
It
It
was
was at the
gone.
very bottom.
It
It was at
was
the very bottom. I saw it at the very bottom.
okay. You believe in your fairies and pixies. Moving on. I
Smack
guess,
you in the chest.
let's just go writing, directing combined here, because they're equal faults.
I can't really say much about the directing. I think it literally the people just said, "All right, this is what's got to happen.
I feel like the directors.
Make it happen."
I feel like the directors are to be faulted for making it not a mockumentary in the second half. I feel like there to be
It should have been found footage, and then there should have been a conclusion. The fact that it's like the ending of it is like the Rossi case was never finished or
it's
closed or something like that.
To
You know,
this day, the Rossi file is still open and under debate about what the causes were. If you would like to keep up with the file, please go to the Rossi
you want to follow the mystery. I'm like, no. Okay, there are some
viral marketing.
See, no, some things have tried to do that before, but the problem is, though, I don't think it's ever really worked.
I think the problem is they're trying to market this website after you've already seen the movie. You're supposed to market the website to get them to see the movie. They're saying, like, hey, go to this website to see all the stuff you just saw.
I don't know. I mean, because obviously we got there too late to see what the actual
we
website
missed
was
it.
about.
We only saw the homepage.
But at the same
Boring as
time,
fuck.
we shouldn't need to.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing that I have a problem with a lot of movies, especially with movies that have fucking novel tie-ins. I don't think this one had one.
No.
But the thing is like some books, some novel tie-ins that like literally try to like explain extra shit that wasn't in the movie that you're supposed to get. I'm like, no. If it's not in the movie, if it's not conveyed right in the fucking movie, then it was not conveyed. You cannot say that this happened or whatnot because, it was in the fucking book. That's like people who try to justify the fucking Star Wars prequels. No!
I I fully agree with what you're saying. It's a matter of these people aren't making just movies anymore. They're going for experiences. They're trying to catch you on all these different sides to the point where like advertising is a thing now that you have to pay attention to get part of a movie. To get there are these books, these websites. The websites especially are terrible at this because they're just like, want to see what happens next? Go to www. Fuck you. We're not showing you it in the movie.com.
We're making you do extra work to find out the answer.
I want to be able to walk out of the theater and say, I enjoyed this movie, or I didn't enjoy this movie. Not, I hope I enjoy this movie when I see the website.
Alright. Here's an example of a movie that was frustrating during it, but at the end, everything wrapped together and made the entire rest of the movie nicely, but at the same time, not too many people were fans of the movie. It's a movie called The Reaping. And it stars Sandra Bullock, and I'm not a fan of her, but at the same time, though, she does a good okay job in this movie. And it's a very confusing movie, and like I was watching it with my sister, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. We were getting pissed off because we're like, this shit better start making sense. Like, all of this shit better start making sense at the end of the movie. And thankfully it did. The Devil Inside is... No, obviously it's not the same style, but this is like The Reaping as if it didn't have the fucking ending.
I guess we should talk about the ending of this film. We never talked about the ending of this film. The ending of this film, I mentioned it briefly, was they're in the car, and Isabel's like strangling this guy, the driver, trying to get him to crash or whatever. She's demon-possessed. Michael's the guy. Marco Polo is trying to pull him off. So, strangling this guy, trying to get him. And then finally she stops. She's like, oh, God. What happened? And there's just a pause for a moment. And then you realize Michael's possessed now. And he takes the car and drives it right into traffic. And boom, black screen, go to the website.
Now, I will say this idea of a demon jumping through bodies has been done before.
I don't care if it's been done before. It was done poorly.
It was done in the movie Fallen with Denzel Washington and John Goodman and Donald Sutherland.
I remember that movie.
I actually liked that movie,
It looked okay from what I saw on TNT.
It didn't get a whole lot of good reviews or anything like that. It didn't do really well in the box office from what I understand. But I liked it. Because the thing is, at the same time, there was a precedence established that these fuckers could do it. See, the thing is, when we approach this movie, it approaches exorcism from the traditional standpoint of what you would have seen in The Exorcist.
Yeah. In fact, it's the exorcism scene, except being for slightly more gruesome, it's essentially exactly the same kind of stuff you saw in The Exorcist.
Yeah, The Exorcist has become the guidebook of exorcism movies ever since.
Just like Romero early work has become the guidebook to zombie
Well, he
lore.
created the flesh-eating zombies.
He's become zombie lore.
Yeah. He is a rule. He has a set of rules with zombies.
Yes, and they are broken sometimes.
They are broken a lot.
But this follows exactly what The Exorcist laid down for exorcisms.
It's standard. It's standard shit, but at the same time, it's a lazy, cheap rendition of it. And that's why it boggles my mind that it got such a fucking wide release.
Yeah.
Because they put so much into the... I remember this shit was on every channel. There was advertisements everywhere. You couldn't go onto a fucking website without seeing something for it.
That was the most... Because it was that fucking lip thing. The fucking...
That, but also the fucking nun.
The
Oh yeah, the nun picture, by the way, it was one shot earlier on in the movie where this creepy nun was on a bridge, and guess what? This woman who makes up the poster for like 90% of the promotional material for this shit was not even important to the movie. And also the whole lip cut thing, it's shown twice in the film for like 3 seconds.
And it's the same exact shot both times. It's once when it's actually happening, the next time when it's on like Final Cut.
Well, no, also it happens to Isabella in the end.
Oh, it does?
Because she did it to herself.
Sorry, I was not caring at that point.
Well, there you go. 3 times it's on there, but it's still on there for like a total of like maybe 5 seconds total screen time.
But here's the issue with this. You said it was so standard. Yes, it is standard. It is boringly standard. But the issue being...
It's the D student.
If it was standard throughout... No, C is average. I'll give it C. If it was standard throughout, the whole way, including the ending, okay. But instead, it was the whole way. As soon as you reach the ending. In fact, before that too.
It's when it was really when you like cross like the threshold. To be honest,
it's as soon as the first priest kills himself. As soon as that moment passes, downhill.
To be honest, actually, the style for me started going downhill the moment they got to Rome.
Well, that's the beginning of the movie.
No, it wasn't the beginning of the movie. That was about 25 to 30 minutes into the film.
Okay.
So that was the beginning.
Misunderstanding.
No, that was the beginning of the second act.
You're misunderstanding me here. I took the average of the entirety of the film and took that as its basic style. You took its best moment and counted that as good style, and then said it went downhill. Yes, it went downhill from there, but I was taking it overall.
Oh no, I am taking it overall. I am taking it overall though,
because the first 20 minutes were fucking great potential.
As
soon as they got to
it had a build up, even though it was still too long.
Yeah.
Like, the build-up was too long. The payoff was not there. It's like an orgasm of dust.
You were predicting everything the girl was saying.
Yeah, it was really bad, too.
Straight out.
Yeah, I was like, I would say her lines before she said them.
Yep. There was one point where you missed up, but it was literally a 50-50 chance between, like, I want to tell somebody or I want the world to know. And she took the other path that you didn't
so that's... But other than that, yeah, spot on. You know what? It's not good when I'm able to predict your script.
Nope.
And I've never read the script of The Devil Inside. I haven't even really watched any of the previews for it. I just remember seeing it everywhere. And then the reason that I chose this one, because this was my turn, the reason I chose this one is because of the backlash that this movie received.
Yeah.
Is because...
Check its Rotten Tomatoes score.
Rotten Tomatoes score, the general consensus on Rotten Tomatoes, like, and also the review that Brad Jones, the Cinema Snob, gave it, like, it's like scathing, and he loves schlock. And like this movie is, like, he literally said it was one of the most infuriating films that he sat through. Like, the ending pissed him off. The acting was mediocre. The effects were mild at best. Like, the funny thing is, David pointed this out. Every single time I said, I want someone to die. I want some blood. I want something to happen after someone had just done that.
The priest shot himself. And then Isabella's in the hospital. She's like, God, I want someone to die. I'm like, Matt, literally the priest
no, someone just died, but I want someone else to die.
Then we're in the hospital, and there's that nurse being coated in blood. Then we leave the hospital, and Matt says, God, I want some blood. And I'm like, Matt, there was blood right there.
See, the thing is, they made me wait so long for it, it didn't feel enough. Yeah. There was no payoff. There was no reward for me sitting through this movie.
I think
okay, now, The Devil's Due, even though it's stupid as shit,
you weren't done with it, okay.
There's one part, it's the conclusion of the movie. It ended off on a fucking gory note. Not gory enough for me. But at the same, well, actually, I'm not even that big of a fan of gory movies just for gore's sake. As I said, I hate the Hostel movies. But at the same time, though, if you're having something that's based in blood and guts, like fucking demonic possession,
but this
was. Alright, this is called The Devil Inside, so maybe the devil involved with this. But the problem is, though, this is not the devil. The devil is not this big of a pussy. This demon sucked. Okay, seriously, he didn't do anything. I disagree
with you on more side. Yes, he didn't do anything. The demon was literally not important. Do you mind if we just get into final thoughts?
Yeah.
Okay, first off, technical aspects, they were alright. They were nothing great. There was nothing terrible. It was just there.
Except some shots just kind of like
very
hung
dark, and
around and like, what are you doing, dude?
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, final thoughts. I'm just going to jump right into mine. This movie hit all the beats. It just hit them out of order. Is for me, personally. I viewed it as the beginning was like trying to get into a little bit of character development, or at least backstory, just to get you interested. That they did at the right spot with the documentary thing. Then they went to there not being a documentary, and that's where they kind of failed. But once they continued on with the story, then they did like the backstory on exorcism. Then they gave more characterization to like these priests and stuff after they're doing an exorcism. Then they go back to exorcism, and then they go to more characterization, and then just up to the climax. There was no... it should have been like, get to know the characters, get to know the exorcist shit, climax, awesome ending. Instead it was, get to know character, extra, guy shot himself, more character, I don't know what's going on. As he said, the mockumentary ending, pretty much, when it went just straight into a film instead of a documentary.
It became a video diary of everybody.
Pretty much. That's exactly what... There were things that said, like, entry 16.
Yeah.
Fuck you, I'm gonna
Entry
shit.
68. Does someone, like, compile all of this shit together?
Exactly. Who the fuck edited this?
That's my problem
In
with
the
most of
canon.
these types of movies.
I mean, the only one I think really got it right... I never saw Blair Witch Project. I know. I never saw it. But the only one that I've seen found footage-wise that got it right was Cloverfield. Because it really wasn't edited that much.
Or it didn't appear that way.
Yeah, it was just like stopping the recording, starting the recording.
I mean, the Blair Witch Project was edited, but it's being like, you know, they found the cans of film and whatnot, and it's like interlaced and all that jazz.
Alright, anyway, but as for my final thoughts, that's
the same thing with
yeah.
Cannibal Holocaust.
But yeah, that's basically what I think of the movie. It was just boring and had a terrible ending. It could have done a lot more if it just stuck with what it did in the first 5 minutes. As soon as they changed it into a film instead of a documentary, as soon as they made this happen in the present, that's the issue. If it happened all in the past, and they weren't trying to make, like, all these events are happening to these characters as you're watching it, it should have been like, the Poughkeepsie days. That's what it should have been like, where every once in a while it intercuts with some Catholic whatever, or some medical science guy. That's the other thing that we didn't talk about. They try to... In the first, 15 minutes, they say, well, is it mental illness or is it possession? There's some interesting thought about that. Maybe,
and that is a legitimate debate.
Maybe the mental illness is the demons. Maybe that's how it's always been. Maybe it's the reverse of it. There's some actual talk in there that they could have done. But then they're just like, nope, it's definitely demons.
All demons. Always demons.
Full steam ahead.
Fucking demons, man.
So, yes, it just had so many missed possibilities and so many wrong turns that you just couldn't like it in the end. Especially when it got to the ending and they just stopped the movie, essentially. They're like, Isabella, she's trying to kill us! Ah!
I think they did that just because they didn't know how to end it.
Good. I'd rather they did that because they didn't know how to end it, rather than thinking that was a good ending.
See, alright.
Go ahead and do your final thoughts.
My final thoughts is that you make a lot of good points, but my personal belief is that it doesn't even have a climax. Like this movie really is like it's a slow burn to nowhere. Like it nothing really swerves, nothing happens, but there's no turns in the road. The problem is there's no the conflict in this movie is the fact that the mom might be possessed, and then the conflict becomes this demon is jumping from person to person.
It only jumps 3 times.
Question is this: A, why? Why is it choosing to jump now? Why is this one choosing to jump now when the other ones have not?
For 15 years.
And these guys apparently have done these exorcisms a lot off the books. So they've never encountered a demon before where they've actually been, have the possibility or even have thought about the possibility of a demon jumping off of one person and lashing onto another. The thought has never occurred to them in all the years that they've been doing this. And the thought had never occurred to any of the people here. Even the thought would have occurred to me, even if you have just watched some fucking movies. You watch Fallen and whatnot. It's about Azazel who can move through touch, and that's his whole thing. But at the same time, at the very end of the movie, there's all this great, plot twist put together to exactly exacerbate the thrill and the tension. This movie does none of that. It just tries to end everything without ending something and makes it try to self-sound. And it's trying to be smart when it's not. It's trying to be clever when it's not. And at the same time, it's trying to be scary when it's not. I never once had a moment where I was tense in this movie.
Mind about real quick, there was a moment where nothing was happening scary for a very long time, and so they just had a dog jump up and bark a few times, and that was it. Then they just went on with their story. They're like, oh god! Well, alright, let's keep going.
See, I have no problem with people trying out something new, trying out something of their own style. I can never fault someone for doing something their own. I can't do that because I do the same thing. But the problem is this. Nothing in this movie is original, and nothing in this movie is warranting the budget, probably, that it got.
At least the advertising.
And the advertising that it definitely received, and the release that it did. This movie looked like it had a lower budget than Creature. Like, and Creature, if it had swapped places and it had that amount of advertising, Creature probably would have made just as much money as The Devil Inside, and it probably would have gotten higher ratings than The Devil Inside.
Oh, yeah. Now, here's something I want to put forward real quick, just before we finish up here. As I was looking on IMDb trying to find this movie, because every single time I typed in like The Devil Within, The Devil Inside, The Devil's Due, Devil Wears Prada, I couldn't figure out which one this was. But I managed to type in Within, and there was a short from a few years earlier that seemed to be by the same people. Do you think this would have worked better as just a short film? Just like 10 minutes.
If you took the one exorcism that we saw in full and only had that, then yes, that would have been an effective short film.
So maybe the short film works. We're not sure.
Some things are just better in a short film format. I have come to fully embrace this.
George Biddle.
Well, there's one, for example, that we've actually can relate. This is something I've come to embrace in the last couple of years. Short films sometimes work better with ideas than long format. Sometimes way too much fucking padding. I know it's a lot easier and a lot more manageable and accessible to try to pitch and sell feature films because you can get a wide audience and there's no distribution for short films outside the festival circuit or in collections like from Criterion. But the problem is, not all these ideas can or should work at all.
So yeah, that's Devil's doing something. That's... I forget, Within? Was it Within? Inside.
That's the devil inside. And there's no devil in this fucking movie.
Hopefully there's none in this review since we got that goddamn possession thing out of the way earlier. What a key!
Some more, it's tricky.